When I wanted to transmit the data over the network, then we are going to use this switching techniques. If we consider this as a receiver and if you consider this as a source, at the time only dedicated channel between the source and receiver will going to be established. Only sender can send at a time. That means even receiver can also respond back to the sender, but not simultaneously. That kind of data transmission will be considered as half duplex mode. Hello everybody, welcome back to the session 5 and chapter 15 networking concepts. I am Rohini TS, lecturer, Department of Computer Science, Vidhyaashram Pre-University College, Temple of Excellence, Mysuru. In the previous session of this networking concept chapter, we had discussed regarding the transmission medium, right? So for that transmission medium, we are going to use some of the materials there. We have discussed regarding twisted pair cable. Along with it, we have discussed regarding its type and what are its advantages and disadvantages. Along with that, I have discussed regarding the coaxial cable, then optical fibers, and also we had a discussion regarding the radio wave, satellite, infrared, and also laser beams. So this is what we have discussed in the last session. So in our today's session, we will moving with switching techniques, and also we will be discussing regarding what are the mediums we have for the communications, and also we are going to have a look regarding some of the important networking devices. So we'll get into the today's session, that is regarding switching techniques. So then what do you mean by switching here? What are the types of switching networks we have here? We'll see now. So when it comes to the switching techniques are used for transmitting a data across network. So as we all know that we are going to build a network in order to have a communication. So when it comes to the switching techniques that will be used in order to transmit the data across the network. When I wanted to transmit the data over the network, then we are going to use this switching techniques, and it is important topic also. Then how many types of switching technique we have? So we have 3 types of switching networks. So that includes circuit switching, message switching, and also packet switching. We'll see the first type, that is regarding circuit switching. It is just like a telephone communication. So they are going to build one dedicated channel between the sender and receiver. So if you are using this circuit switching, there will be one sender and there will be one receiver. So if you wanted to send the data from sender to receiver, at that time one particular dedicated channel or particular medium will going to be established in between the sender as well as the receiver. So that kind of switching we are going to use. At that time it will be expensive. Why? Because they are giving you the dedicated channel for having a transmission of data from one network to another network, and also this will be more reliable than any other types of switching. So you can see here in this technique, first the complete physical connection between the two computers is established and the data are transmitted from the source computer to the destination computer. So if you see here, if you consider this as a receiver and if you consider this as a source, at that time only dedicated channel between the source and receiver will going to be established. At that time there will be more reliability in this kind of switching, and though it is expensive, then main important thing is what? There is no loss of data. Why? Because when we are having a dedicated channel, then there will be less chances of losing the confidential data. That is regarding what? The circuit switching. So next we have a message switching. So in this message switching, what will going to happen? There is no direct communication or there is no transfer of data from sender to receiver. So there is no direct communication between the sender as well as the receiver. So instead of that, message will going to be stored in the switching office first. So then it will going to buffer, it will be stored whenever it is necessary, then only it will going to be forward to the receiver. So that's why it is also considered as what? Store and forward. So stored information will going to be in switching office. After that, whenever it is required, at that time that will going to be forward to the receiver, so that there is no direct communication between the sender as well as the receiver. So in this we have some of the terminals, that means workstations will be there, and we are going to have sender as well as the receiver. Whatever the information or a data that I wanted to transmit over this kind of switching technique, at the time directly it will come and it will going to be stored in message office, that is switching office. that will going to be stored in switching office first. Then it will going to be forward to the terminal, or it will going to be forward to the receiver later. So in this technique, the source computer send the data or message to the switching office first. So the message will going to be reached to the switching office first, then which stores the data in its buffer. So after that, it will be going to be forward to the receiver at a time. That means it is also called as what? Store and forward method. Why? Because it will stores the data and information or a message first in the switching office, then forward later. So one jump at a time. For example, if we have a terminal like a sender and I wanted to reach the content from there to here, at that time, in a particular time, this will going to be stored in the switching office, then it will take a path to the next switching office, then it will going to reach to the receiver. So this is regarding what? Message switching. And also next what we have? Packet switching. The best example is your mobile phones. So that means we are going to have some of the crosstalks, or we are going to have some miscommunication over the mobile. For example, if you consider the video call over the WhatsApp, at that time there will be some delay. So why? Because all the messages and information what you wanted to send from sender to receiver, everything will going to be broken into number of packets. That is why. So here there is no dedicated channel, and there will be more than one kind of path will be there in order to reach the receiver from the sender. That is regarding what? This packet switching. All the data and information, messages, everything will going to be divided into number of packets, and that packet will going to take different kinds of route in order to reach the receiver from the sender. So you can see here, for example, here consider this as a sender and consider this as a receiver. So I just wanted to send some of the message or information from sender to receiver. For this message passing or for this transmission of a data over a network, at the time there will be more kind of communication will going to takes place. So this packet can be moved to this receiver in this path, or it can comes from here, and also it can take one more division, like it can come here, it will reach here, at last then it will reach to the receiver. So that means there is no dedicated channel in between the sender and receiver. When there is no dedicated channel, it is not so expensive, but you must be ready to bear the disturbances, whatever it will going to create over transmitting of a data over the internet. So that packet switching can be seen as an option that tries to combine the advantages of circuit and message switching, and in order to minimize the disadvantages of both. So if you consider this packet switching, it will going to improve the advantages of both message switching as well as the circuit switching, and also it minimizes the disadvantages of those two. So in the packet switching, message is broken into smaller parts, that is called as packets. All the contents or image, messages, information, everything will going to be divided into number of packets, and that packets are fixed size of packet which can be transmitted across the network, which we are going to specify. So these are the types of switching techniques. So that includes packet switching, message switching, and also circuit switching. We'll see the next topic, that is communication medium, or it is also called as communication mode. Very, very important question. So what do you mean by communication mode or communication medium? Mention its types, explain anyone. So there will be a possibility of asking a question like this. Then what do you mean by communication medium or a mode here? So as we all know that I wanted to transfer the data from one place to another place over the network. So when we are doing that process will be termed as what? Communication medium or a mode. So the way in which data is transmitted from one place to another place is considered as data transmission mode, and it is also considered as data communication mode. Data transmission or a data communication mode. So there are three types of mode or a medium we have while transmitting the data from one place to another place over the internet. That includes simplex mode, half duplex mode, and also we have full duplex mode. So we have three categories that include simplex mode, half duplex mode, as well as full duplex mode. So as we all know that if you are transmitting any of the data from one place to another place, that also indicates that it is the flow of information. So from a sender to receiver. And also sometimes the data transmission modes are also called as directional modes. So based on the direction from where to where it is going, from where to where it is coming, everything will going to be matters when we are dealing with this different kinds of transmission mode. What is the first type we have? That is simplex mode. So if you see this diagram, you can understand that we have sender as well as we have receiver. So if sender is only sending and if receiver is only receiving, then we are going to call that kind of communication as what? Simplex mode. So here only sender can send and receiver can receive that kind of data. So there is no exchange of role of this sender as well as the receiver. So if the data transmission is taking at a single direction or at the one direction, then we are going to call that kind of communication or that kind of transmission mode as a simplex mode. So what is the best example here? YouTube videos. So if it is not live, if you are simply premiering all these videos, at the time you can just listen. So you can just receive the content. So being a sender, I can just send the comments or I can just send the content here. That is what and also you can take the best example as FM radios. So there we can simply listen, they can simply talk. There is no communication between the sender as well as the receiver. So both will going to do their task individually. That is regarding simplex mode. We'll see the next type, that is regarding half duplex mode. So when we are working with this half duplex mode, the best example is railway track. So at that time both like train can go, train can come, but in the same track it will not going to take place at a time. That means sender can send, receiver also can send back, and sender can also receive it back, but not at the same time. So which is the best example for this then? That is railway track along with that walkie-talkie. So when we are working with this walkie-talkie, at the time, why I am going to consider that as a half duplex mode? The transmission of data can be sent from sender and can be received by the receiver, and receiver can respond back to the sender, but first they have to listen the comments from the sender, then only they can respond back. So that is what walkie-talkie works, right? So here sender can also send, receiver can also respond back, but not at a that means it is not going to take place simultaneously. So in this only sender can send at a time. That means even receiver can also respond back to the sender, but not simultaneously. That kind of data transmission will be considered as half duplex mode. So next what we have? Full duplex. So here transmission of data and information from sender to receiver will going to take place simultaneously. Example, your phone conversation. So even caller can call, even called person can also talk. So both will going to have a conversation simultaneously. So mobile conversation is the best example for this full duplex mode. So when the transmission of a data taking place in both the direction simultaneously, then we are going to consider that kind of transmission mode or a medium as this full duplex mode. We'll see the next topic, that is regarding network devices. So the question will be like this: mention any 5 network devices and explain. Or else there will be a possibility of a question asking what do you mean by modem, what is router, what is bridge, what is switch. So that kind of questions can also be asked. So we'll see the first network devices. So now you can just imagine, we know what is input devices, we know what is output devices, we know memory devices, right? So each devices will going to perform its own task. When we are going to use some of the hardware devices in order to establish a network or in order to share the data and information over the network, then that kind of devices will be termed as what? Network devices. So among that, first we have a modem. So there is abbreviation for modem, that is modulation and demodulation. Modulator and demodulator. So that is what? Modem means modulation and demodulation. Then why we are going to use this modem? If I wanted, modem is a computer peripheral that allows you to connect and communicate with other computers via telephone lines. So with the help of this modem, I can transfer a data from one computer to another computer. I can communicate from one computer to another computer, that too with the help of this telephone lines. Then what is the use of having this modulation and demodulation? So as we all know that computer can understand only digital signals, right? So that is zeros and ones. And telephone lines can understand only analog signals, like it will be in the sine form. So modulation, in that method, what will going to take place? A modem changes the digital data from your computer into analog data. So a format that can be carried by telephone line. So as I told, so from the computer I am going to generate the digital signal. That digital signal will going to be converted, or it will be transmitted into analog signals, and that will be carried throughout this telephone lines. So that method is known as what? Modulation. But once the operation is done, once it must reach back to another computer system, at that time the receiver or whatever it will going to receive from another computer system can understand only digital signal. So it will not going to understand any analog signal. At that time again I need to change the analog signal into digital signal. For that purpose we are going to have this demodulation. So here a modem receiving the call then changes the analog signal back into digital data that computer can digest or understand. That is the use of having this modulation and demodulation. So modem, that is modulation, demodulation, in order to, like, it is a peripheral device, that is also outer devices to the computer system, mainly used to connect any other computers to existing computers. So in order to have a connection and communication to the another computer, we are going to use telephone lines. As we all know that computer understands only digital signal, but telephone lines can't carry the digital signal. It can have a capability only to carry analog signal. So that in order to convert the digital to analog, we are going to use modulators or a modulation process. So again, if I wanted to reach to another system, or if I wanted to communicate with another computer system, at the time again that analog signal needs to be converted into digital. So the demodulators or demodulation process will going to help us in order to do that. And also we have types of modem, that includes internal modem and external modem. So if we have a inbuilt modem in the computer system, that will be considered as internal, and the modem that are fixed within the computer, these are all considered as what? Internal modem or inbuilt modem. And also we have a external modem. So the modem that are connected to externally to a computer as other peripheral are connected. So as other external devices, however we are going to connect to the computer system, in that way we are going to connect this modem in order to transform the digital to analog signal and to analog to digital signal. So that is the second type, that is nothing but external modems. So this is regarding modems. We'll see the next one, that is Ethernet cord. So you might have came across internet connection. So for that purpose, we are going to use this Ethernet card. So there will be chances of having two kinds of Ethernet connections. So like it can be either with the help of coaxial cable or with the help of this twisted pair cable. So we'll see what do you mean by this Ethernet cord or Ethernet cord. The computer that are part of Ethernet have to install our special card called Ethernet card. So why we are going to use this Ethernet card? In order to use the internet access. So mainly it will going to make a use of bus or a star topology and the data transfer rates of 10 Mbps. So if I am using this Ethernet card, that will have a data rate of 10 Mbps, and it will going to use bus or a star topology in order to establish a network. And also, as I told, this Ethernet contains connections for either coaxial or a twisted pair cable. So if I am using a coaxial cable, or if this Ethernet card is designed by a coaxial cable, then that kind of connection will be BNC. But if I am using this twisted pair cable for the designing and manufacturing of this Ethernet card, there we are going to use this RJ45 connection. That is regarding Ethernet card. So here you can see the Ethernet card. We'll see the next one, that is hub. So what do you mean by hub here? So we'll see hub is a hardware device used to connect several computers together. So you just imagine you are in cyber center. Consider you have 10 system there. Consider it consists of 10 system. So at the time, instead of managing every individual computers, they are simply going to connect all the devices to this They are going to simply connect all these devices to the hub. So what is the main use of having a hub? So for example, I just wanted to communicate or I wanted to share the data from this computer to this computer. Instead of sending it directly, the content of this computer or a workstation will going to reach to the hub. Again, then hub will going to send its content back to this workstation or a computer. And if you are doing like this, then there will be some disadvantages. What is that? For example, it is just you can take the example of chatting in a group. For example, you don't wanted to chat someone who is already in the group, but if you send some messages in a group, that will going to reach to everybody. In the same way, if I wanted to share some data and information from this computer to this computer, then it will going to be reached to the hub. That hub will going to send the data to all the computers. Then it will reach to the workstation or a computer where I wanted to share the data from this computer to this computer. That is also considered as what? One of the disadvantage here. So this is also a hardware device that is used to connect several computers together. So instead of managing every workstations or a computer individually, all the devices will going to be connected to the hub. And if I am maintaining a hub, then that means that we are also maintaining all these computers. But what if something goes wrong with this hub? Everything will going to be connectionless. So here, a concentrator is a device that provides a central connection point for cables from workstation, servers and also peripheral. So this is what we are going to call this as a central connection point. Hub is also considered as a central connection point where it will going to have a communication with all the workstations, all the peripheral or external devices, whatever I wanted to communicate with this hub. So in a star topology, twisted pair wire is run from each workstation to the central concentrator. So this is a central concentrator. If I wanted to establish a communication between this workstation to the hub, at that time we are going to use star topology along with twisted pair cables were used in order to establish the communication between the concentrator as well as to the number of workstation. And also we have two types of hub. One is active hub and another one is passive hub. So it is just like what amplifier. It will going to strengthen the signal which I wanted to share from one workstation to another workstation. So in that first type we have a active hub. So this active hub is like repeaters. So it will going to helps in order to amplify the signal. If it is amplified, then it is also strengthen the signal. If the signal is strengthened, then it can able to move forward to the longer distance. So that is what we are going to do in the active hub. For example, you just imagine you are running over the relay. So that is regarding active hub. So next we have a second type, that is passive hub. So it will not going to amplify anything. So it simply sends the data and information or a signal from one workstation to another workstation without amplifying or without strengthening any of the signals here. So it allows the signal to pass from one computer to another without any change. But if you are using an active hub, then there will be a chances of amplifying the signal, and that strengthen the signal that will going to be carried from one computer to another computer. That will going to helps in order to extend the length of a network. So next we have a switch. So what is the difference between this hub and switch? We'll see now. A switch is a telecommunication device grouped as one of the computer network component. We also consider this switch as a hub and this switch as a network devices, but this switch will be considered as what? Enhanced version of the hub. For example, as I told, if I have a 10 system in my cyber, at the time if I wanted to communicate from one workstation or if I wanted to communicate from one computer to another computer, all the computer will going to receive the data and information what I wanted to communicate from system 1 to system 5. But if I am using this hub at that time, then there will be a dedicated channel between one computer to another computer. Then there will be no chances of spreading the data to all the workstation or to the computer. That is the difference between switch and hub. And the switch also has some of the improved features. So the switch connects the source and destination directly, which increases the speed of a network. So as I told, for example, you consider we have one system and also we have one more So if you just recall the content of hub, so every computer will going to be connected to this hub. For example, if I wanted to communicate from this computer to this computer, at the time I have to reach to the hub first, then the hub will going to share the data to this system. But if I am using a switch, at the time this will going to help us in order to have a direct communication from this computer system to this computer system. When there is a dedicated channel, then it also improves the data rate and the speed of the network is also going to be high. That is the difference between hub and switch. So next we have a repeater. So already we know about the repeater. So in order to strengthen the signal, we are going to use this repeater. So if we are using a repeater in a network, that will help the signal in order to get it strengthened, and we can send the data and information to the longer distance in the network. So repeater is also a network device and amplifies and restores the signals for long distance transmission. So for the long distance transmission, we have to carry the signal. So if the signal is too low, then it is not able to carry the signal for long distance. So in order to amplify that, or in order to restore all the signal, we are going to use a device called repeaters. So it is used in long network lines which exceeds the maximum rate distance for a single run. And also we have two kinds of repeater here. One is amplifier and another one is signal repeater. So you can just take the example of relay. So for example, in between, if someone is giving a glucose, that means what? That will going to amplify or that will going to improve your strength. But if I am going to make you, as you are in the initial stage before started running, then we are going to improve your strength with the help of this signal repeaters. So if I am giving a glucose in between, that is what amplifier, but you won't get the strength as much that you had in a beginning. But if I am using this signal repeater, at the time I am going to make you much strengther than you were in the initial stage. So that is the difference between amplifier and signal repeater. So you can see here, it amplifies all the incoming signal over the network. So it will just improve the efficiency, or also it will going to strengthen its signal. But when we are using this signal repeaters, it collects the inbound packets and then retransmit the packets as if it were starting from the source station. So in this signal repeater, it will collect all the packets and it will going to strengthen all those packets. Then it will send, or it will retransmit those signals or packets as if it is were there in the initial stage or from the starting or source station. This is regarding what? Types of repeaters. We'll see the next one, that is bridge. So as we all know that we have a network. So in that we have a hub, we have repeaters. Everything is mainly to strengthen the signal. Then what is the use of having this bridge? It is also a device, or it is also a network device that establish an intelligent connection between two local networks with the same standard but with different types of cable. So if I wanted to communicate within the network, for example, as I told, it can create a sub-network. So this by making use of this bridge, we can create a sub-network. So consider all these network. This is also another network. But if I wanted to have a dedicated network, or if I wanted to have a communication within the network, then we are going to use this bridge. It will going to establish an intelligent connection between the local network. So with some of the standard and with different cables. So we can use coaxial cable, twisted pair cable. By using different kinds of cable, I can have a dedicated channel, I can have a packet switching. Everything is possible only within the particular local networks. So then what about this gateway? For example, if I wanted to have if I wanted to establish a connection between one network to another network with different protocols, then we have to use this gateway. For example, you just imagine you wanted to connect the network of India to the network of Pakistan. At that time, I can't use this bridge. I have to use a gateway that will going to connect the network to network which is of the different protocols. This is what the difference between gateway as well as the bridge. So that the term gateway is applied to a device, system or a software application which has inter-network capability of joining dissimilar network. But bridge is related to intra-network, but this gateway will going to act as a inter-network. It has the capability to join the dissimilar network of a different protocols. If I wanted to have a communications over within the sub-networks of a same network, then I have to go with a bridge. So it is node on the network that provides an entry to another network. So here you can see that here it has combined different kinds of network in order to form a bridge or in order to form a communication pathway, so that it performs the data translation and protocol conversion which is suitable to other network. It is also will going to modulate something and demodulate something. Like when we go to any of the other country, we have to adjust it, we have to get adjusted to their culture for a particular certain tense. So this gateway is also going to change or it will going to translate the data and protocol as per the suitability of another network. Then also gateway can be implemented on software, hardware, or even as a combination of both. So we can have a hardware gateway, also we can have a software gateway, and we can combine those two also. Next we have a router here. Router is also like a bridge. So it will going to have a intra-network connection. So it can handle even different protocols. So here this bridge will going to handle the same protocol and this router will going to handle the different protocols. Gateway will going to handle the different dissimilar network. So that router is a network device that is used to separate the different segments in a network to improve the performance and reliability. It mainly relies on the sub-network. So bridge is what? Intra-network. Gateway is inter-network, and this router is like a bridge, like intra-network, and within that it will going to communicate or it will going to connect to the sub-network, so that if the destination is unknown to a router, it sends the traffic to another router which is known the destination. For example, it is like a mutual friend in the social network. So if some of your friends will going to send a request to another friend of yours, at the time you both will going to have a conversation. Do you know him or her? Then they are going to get friend. So in that way, this router will going to work. So if that person is unknown, then you are going to ask somebody else, like do you know him or her? So in that way, this router will going to work. So it's regarding network devices. It's all about today's session. Let me meet you in the next session. Until that, keep learning, keep on growing. Thank you.